हाय जागरूक जनता, वेलकम टू येट अनदर मेंबर्स ओनली लाइव स्ट्रीम। पिछले सैटरडे कुछ टेक्निकल इश्यूज की वजह से हम इसको एग्जीक्यूट नहीं कर पाए थे, बट वी आर बैक विद द सेम स्पीकर, मिस्टर विक्रांत पावस्कर. ही इज़ अ वेल नोन सीए बेस्ड आउट ऑफ महाराष्ट्र एंड प्रैक्टिसिंग ऑडिटिंग. एंड आज ये हमें समझाएंगे कि एनपीएस स्कीम, अगर आप सीरियसली कंसिडर कर रहे हो एनपीएस स्कीम को अपने रिटायरमेंट के लिए, तो उसको आपको किन किन अलग स्कीम से कंपेयर करना है, डिफरेंट पेंशन फंड्स के क्या क्या पास रिटर्न्स रहे हैं, एंड पूरा कंप्लीट इन डेप्थ एनालिसिस आपके सामने प्रेजेंट करेंगे, ताकि अगर आप एनपीएस में ऑलरेडी सब्सक्राइब हो या करने का सोच रहे हो तो इस वीडियो से आपको बहुत हेल्प मिलेगी. तो विदाउट एनी फर्दर अडू, आई वेलकम मिस्टर विक्रांत पावस्कर. ओवर टू यू.
For having me on this channel, and a very good afternoon to one and all. I hope you are taking care of yourselves and staying safe. Right. The topic for today, National Pension System. It is part of the larger topic of retirement planning. Now, retirement planning as a subject is perceived by different people differently. People generally in their 20s and 30s, generally, they think that retirement planning is not for them, it is for someone else. Similarly, people in their 50s and 40s generally are concerned about retirement planning. So to set the context of the topic for today, I'll just make quick 4 pointers on the importance of retirement planning. The first is rise in life expectancy. Now, the average life expectancy in India as of today, it is 70 years, right? And going by the World Health Organization reports, in the years to come, it is expected to increase to 75. In fact, in 1950, it was around 35 years. So because of the advancement in medical sciences, definitely the life expectancy is increasing. And the longer the people live, of course, a long life is considered as a blessing in our culture. But the financial risk that is associated with a long life is that the savings that the person has may not be sufficient for him to lead the same kind of life which he was leading during his working age. So this is one of the biggest reasons why one should consider retirement planning. The other reason is there is a declining domestic savings rate. What I mean is that today the savings rate is around 30%. 30%. Largely because of the older generation tends to save more, and the trend is that the younger generation has is not inclined to save that much, which is a worrying trend actually. The younger generation, the millennials as we call them, they generally tend to save around 15 to 20% only. So this is also one of the reasons why should one consider retirement planning. Another important reason is falling interest rates. And this is a global phenomenon. This is not generally restricted to India. The interest rates are falling and they will continue to fall. Of course, they are cyclical in nature, but the general trend is that they tend to fall. And this is one of the reasons why an investor, as on today, he just cannot rely on interest-bearing securities. He has to look for other avenues of investment. So this is also one of the reasons. The fourth and one of the obvious reasons is increase in cost of living and a need to maintain a standard of living. Let's accept it that we all are attached to a certain standard of living, and we want to have that kind of a standard of living in once we retire and once we stop working. So that is so. So do we have an investment option which is goal-based? Which is specifically catering to only retirement planning, which is scalable, depending on the needs of a person. That investment option should be scalable in the sense that, if I need a higher retirement corpus, I should be able to get that. So is there an investment option which is having an individual choice? When I say individual choice, do I have an option to decide the asset classes into which I want to invest, or decide who is going to manage my investments? So an investment option which is tax efficient at the same time, it offers me incentives, it offers me tax benefits at the time of exit, entry, and also during the functioning of the scheme. Also, if there is an investment option which has a very low cost structure, that would also be an added advantage. So what I'll do is I'll basically put in before you the features of the national pension system, along with the figures and facts, and then I'll leave it for you people to decide for yourselves whether NPS is an option for you for retirement planning purposes. Now, as an introduction to national pension system, this is a government-sponsored scheme. It is regulated by the PFRD, the Pension Fund Regulatory Development Authority. It was introduced in the year 2004 for government employees. Primarily, it was meant for government employees. In 2004, there was a major shift in the policy of the government from a defined benefit scheme to a defined contribution scheme. From the old pension scheme, which was it was called, to the new pension scheme. So, and this is a trend world over also. Countries are moving from defined benefit schemes to defined contribution schemes. And then in the year 2009, this was made available to all citizens of the country. So as on today, even self-employed people and people working in the private sector can be part of the national pension system. The objective is to provide retirement income to all citizens. That is the primary objective. And subscribers can contribute regularly into a pension account. So that is the reason it is a defined contribution scheme. There is no obligation. It is a voluntary scheme for anyone who participates into it. And then then that person can decide for himself as to the amount that he wants to contribute to the scheme. And on retirement or on superannuation, as we call it, a subscriber can procure an annuity, which is pension. Annuity is pension for NPS purposes. He can procure an annuity to obtain a regular income. And he also has an option to withdraw of the retirement corpus. A part of the retirement corpus can be withdrawn. We'll see that later on. Now let us say who is eligible for NPS. So an Indian citizen, including an NRI, and if he is aged between 18 and 70 years. So a person fulfilling both these criteria can enter the national pension system. Very recently, the age has the upper limit of the age has been increased to 70 years. Previously, was till last month this was 65. That's a new change that has been coming into the scheme. Now, a subscriber is allotted a unique permanent retirement account number, PRAN, right? So this number is used to identify the subscriber's pension and is completely portable. So just as we have the PAN, the PAN number, which is identified with all your income tax related activities, be it return filing, be it refunds, be it other communication. Similarly, we have a PRAN, which is associated with all your activities with the NPS. So your pension account is identified with a PRAN number. Now, PRAN provides access to two personal accounts. One is Tier 1 account, which is a mandatory account and meant for retirement savings. The other is a Tier 2 account, which is a voluntary account with no lock-in restrictions. So majorly our discussion is centered around Tier 1 account, which is the pension account, which is the mandatory account. I have a separate slide for Tier 2 account later on. We'll see. Now let us have a look at the NPS architecture, in the sense that nowadays investors are concerned as to who is managing their money, what are the finer aspects of the particular scheme that they are investing in. So let us quickly have a look at it. And also it is important from the decision-making perspective. A person who wants to invest into NPS has to make a couple of important decisions. So understanding the architecture of NPS is important. Now, at the center, we have the PFRDA, the Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority, and alongside we have all the other entities which are part of the system. The PFRDA plays the crucial, the central, the pivotal role, the controller role. So just as the Reserve Bank of India is the controlling authority for the banking sector, it issues rules, regulations, and guidelines. Similarly, the PFRDA issues rules, regulations, and guidelines for all the other entities that you see around to operate and function. And these entities will have to comply and fulfill the rules and regulations set by the PFRDA. Now, one important feature which I observe, while seeing this scheme work, is that there is clear demarcation of work. So the portfolio management aspect is done by the pension fund managers. The insurance aspect of the scheme is taken care by the insurance companies. There is the NPS trust who is holding all the assets on behalf of the subscribers. And then the data management, the record keeping aspect is done by the data management companies like NSDL, the central record keeping agencies. So there is clear demarcation of work. There is no overlapping, and that brings in efficiency. Also, one important thing that I observe is the role of the private sector. The private sector has a very crucial role to play in this. We'll see how it is, and definitely it works in the it reflects in the overall scheme working of the scheme also. So let's quickly have a look. PFRDA, it is set up under the PFRDA Act 2013. The objective is to promote old age income security, establishing and developing pension funds, and to protect interest of subscribers. The NPS Trust, now this is a special purpose vehicle, as we call it. It is established for taking care of assets and funds under the scheme in the interest of beneficiaries. Individual NPS subscribers are the beneficiaries of the NPS Trust. We have the central record keeping agencies. They are handling all the record keeping function of the scheme, giving out the individual NAVs, and what all contributions are coming in, withdrawals happening. So all the record keeping aspect, the bookkeeping aspect is done by CRA. We have the pension fund managers. Now they play a very crucial role in during the whole life cycle of the pension NPS. They are the portfolio managers. They are interested with optimizing the returns on investments. They are the people who invest the money that you contribute to the scheme. Point of presence. These are the banks and financial institutions who act as an interface. So when you want to have an offline access to the scheme, generally it is you go to a bank and then do all the transactions over there. We have the annuity service providers. Now these are responsible for delivering regular monthly pension to the subscriber through an annuity contract. We also have the trustee bank. Trustee bank is the banker for the NPS. Now let us look at the entire life cycle process. It starts, so at the entry of the scheme, whenever an investor enters the NPS, he starts contributing to the scheme, and the contributions are invested. And this investment then grows and becomes a retirement corpus. And at the age of superannuation or at the age of retirement, the corpus can be withdrawn and the pension commences. So if you see from the four aspects of the scheme, for the four stages of the scheme, the first three stages, the contributions, the investments, and the retirement corpus, these are happening continuously. They are happening continuously and intermittently. So till the time the investor contributes to the scheme, there is contribution, there is investment, and there is creation of retirement corpus. And of course, at the time of exit, the corpus is withdrawn and the pension starts. So to broadly understand the scheme, if you understand each of these four aspects, then you could understand the whole scheme in entirety. So let us look at contributions to NPS. So tier 1, tier 2. Tier 1 is the mandatory account, which we have seen. Tier 2 is optional. The minimum contribution at the time of account opening is 500 rupees, tier 1. Minimum amount of subsequent contribution is 500, and the minimum contribution required per year annually to keep the account going is 1000 rupees. And there has to be at least one contribution, whereas there is no limit to the frequency of contributions, and there is no limit to the amount that you can contribute to this scheme. You can contribute whatever amount you like, subject to the minimum distance. Suppose you are part of the corporate model of NPS. Now, what is the corporate model of NPS? Corporate model is where your employer also has implemented the scheme in your organization. So suppose if you're part of the corporate model, then there are three options before you. You can, because this is a voluntary scheme, there is no statutory act which regulates that you have to contribute so and so mandatorily every month or so. It's a voluntary scheme. So what are the three options? First option is that there can be an equal contribution by the employer and employee. Second is there can be an unequal contribution by the employer and the employee. Third is contribution from either the employer or the employees. So all the three permutations, so different permutations are possible. Let us look at the investment options and fund managers. So the fund managers and investment options we'll see in this particular segment. Now, who are the people who manage our money into this scheme? First is there are as many as 7, and most of them are very well known. They have a track record of portfolio management for many years. We have HDFC, ICICI, Kotak, LIC, SBI, UTI, and Aditya Birla. So these are the people. If you see the share that the AUM wise share that every fund manager has. So as on 30th April 2021, the assets under management were 5,89,854 crores. And you can see SBI, UTI, and LIC have a major share in the total assets management. Why I'm showing you all this is because the selection of a fund manager has to be done by the investor when he enters the scheme. So all these factors can definitely go around. And one of the reasons why SBI, UTI, and LIC they have a major share in the AUM is that for the government employees, these are the only 3 portfolio managers who are allowed at this point in time, and that is one of the reasons. Now, what are the asset classes into which the funds are invested? Now, of course, once you make a contribution to the NPS and you select the fund manager, now this fund manager will invest into primarily 4 asset classes, depending on your preferences, of course. So first is that we have equity instruments. These are the shares that are listed on the stock exchange. We have government securities, the debt that is issued by the state governments and the central government, which are also called sovereign bonds. We also have corporate bonds. Now these are the instruments which are issued by private corporates to raise money. We also have alternative investments. Alternative investments are sort of a new avenue of investments, primarily real estate investment trusts and infrastructure investment trusts. Now, all these 4 asset classes have different risks and returns profiles. So equity will have a slightly higher risk, but a higher capability of giving you returns. Government securities are sovereign, so that they have a sovereign rating and they have a much higher amount of security as to the capital protection. But they'll give you returns which are slightly lesser than maybe equities. Similarly with corporate bonds, and alternative investments are a new category of investments. We'll have to look out as to how they perform over a period of time. Now, NPS allows you. So just before this, I'll just tell you the performance of the fund managers. Now, this is the file that I've downloaded from NPS Trust website. This probably will give you a better idea as to which of the fund managers is giving you what kind of a return. So we have a listing of all the fund managers over here, and these yellow bands that you see are different categories of investments. So first we have equities, E category of investments, where on this side of the file you'll see all the returns that are delivered by these pension fund managers. So if you see the returns of 10 years or maybe since inceptions, so Aditya Birla has given a return of 11.97%, right? HDFC has given a return of 14.83% on equities. We're talking about equities right now. ICICI is 11.9%. So different fund managers have given different returns based on their strategies and their modes of investments and valuation and strategies of investments. So similarly, when it comes to corporate bonds, these are the returns. They are ranging from 9% to 10% again. And again, with respect to government securities, you'll have the returns listed out. So HDFC is again giving you a return of 10.31%. LIC pension fund is doing well when it comes to government bonds, 11.34%. So this particular file may also help you to decide as to which fund manager is suitable for you, depending on the asset classes. Let's come back to this now. Now, NPS allows you to manage your investments in 2 ways. There are primarily 2 ways you can manage your investments. One is called an active choice, where the subscriber decides the allocation pattern as to how much amount he wants to invest in equity, how much in government bonds, how much in corporates. So that option, a particular subscriber has the choice to decide for himself, depending on his risk profile, of course. So someone having a high risk profile can manage a higher amount of equity in his portfolio. So that flexibility is inbuilt into the scheme. We also have an auto choice. An auto choice option is generally used by people who may not have that much knowledge about fund management or where to invest or which asset classes to invest. So this particular choice takes care of such this thing. Also, the NPS gives you a flexibility that you can change this particular option twice in a financial year. So suppose you're doing an active choice at the moment, and then you decide, an auto choice is better for me. Then you can shift, and vice versa is possible. So twice in a financial year, you can decide to change the ratio of your holdings. So that flexibility is also inbuilt in the system. Active choice as an investment option. Now, this choice is for those who want to decide the asset class allocation on their own. The subscriber has the option to choose the ratio in which his or her funds are to be invested. So suppose I say that, I will invest 40% of my contribution into equities, 30% in government securities, and the remaining 30% again in corporate bonds. So that kind of thing. Someone may decide that no, 60% should be in equities and the rest 40% in government bonds. So that is what an active choice is. One consideration, one limiting factor that an investor has to consider is that the maximum exposure to equity is 75%. You cannot invest more than 75%. So up to the age of 50, so whenever an investor enters the NPS scheme, 75% of the contribution is the maximum that is allowed in equities. And suppose someone joins in, say, at the age of 54, then it is much reduced. It is, say, 65. And likewise. The maximum exposure to government securities and corporate bonds is 100%. So you could invest all of your contribution into either government securities or corporate bonds. So there is no limitation on that. The amount that you can contribute to alternative investments is 5%, because they are generally taken as high risk investments, and the markets are yet to decipher as to how well they perform over a period of time, and that is the reason they have kept it. The upper limit has been kept to 5% at the moment. Later on, they may increase it. Now, let's come to auto choice. This choice is for those who do not have time or knowledge to manage their investments or do not want to manage it on their own. So under this choice, investments are made in a life cycle fund. So as you see over here, what the scheme offers is for people who do not want to decide the ratio, they could either select one of these 3 life cycle funds. So suppose someone selects the moderate life cycle fund, then out of the total contributions that he is making, 50% will be invested in equities, 20 in government bonds, and the remaining 30% in corporate bonds. And so basically, what the principle behind this this whole selection is that there is diversification of portfolio that is possible over here. And another investment principle that you will find inbuilt into the system is that as one progresses in his age, the component of equity comes down gradually and the component of debt increases. So the portfolio de-risking concept that we have in investments is followed by this. So by the time you are 35, your investment in equities is still 50%, 20% in government and 30% in corporate bonds. But by the time you are 45, your equity investment is reduced to 30. Your exposure to government and corporate bonds is 50 and 20% respectively. And of course, by the time you are 55 years of age, only 10% of your contributions are then invested in equities. So this is a good scheme. This is a good scheme for people who are not much aware of what their risk profile is. And the whole scheme takes care of the juggling of assets in the scheme. So which I like, which is something which I like for, and we suggested for many of our clients. Now let us talk about exit and withdrawals. Right. Now there are 3 situations where an exit is possible. One is of course the normal situation where exit on attaining age of 60 years or retirement or superannuation as we call it. So at this particular age, the investor has the option, right, that the investor has to compulsorily purchase an annuity. That is 40% of accumulated corpus has to be used to purchase an annuity. And the remaining 60%, he has the option to withdraw. So here, an investor can decide that, no, I do not want to withdraw the entire 60%. I want to withdraw only, say, 40% or say 20%. So that option he has. The maximum amount that a person can withdraw at the age of 60 years is 60% of the accumulated corpus. The balance 40% has to be necessarily used to purchase an annuity from an insurance company. Now there are some additional features in the scheme, such as continuation and deferment. Now, what is continuation? Continuation under NPS is allowed until 70 years of age. So at the age of 60, the investor also has an option that maybe he doesn't require that money at that point in time. So he has an option to continue contributing to the scheme until he is 70 years of age. So that is something which is possible. So that option has to be exercised before he attains the retirement age of 60. There is also another option which is called deferment of lump sum and or annuity. Deferment is basically just you have to postpone the lump sum withdrawal. So lump sum withdrawal can be postponed for 10 years, and annuity can be postponed for a maximum of 3 years. So that option is also there built into the scheme. So depending on the needs of the investor can decide whether he wants to exit at the age of 60 or he wants to still continue and until he's 70 years of age. At the age of 70, there is no option. He has to exit the scheme. Now, if the corpus is up to 5 lakhs, there is an option to withdraw that amount completely. That is something given to them. Now, is it possible to exit the scheme before 60 years? Answer is yes. Answer is yes, provided the subscriber has been in the NPS for at least 10 years. So if he's been part of the NPS scheme for 10 years, then he has the option to exit before the age of 60. Normally, this option is utilized by people who voluntarily retire. So that is a situation where. Now, what happens is there's a condition that the minimum annuitization is 80% of accumulated corpus. So 80% of total corpus has to be mandatorily used to purchase the annuity. Balance 20% can be withdrawn at the option of the subscriber. Now, the third situation where there is an exit is, of course, at the death of the subscriber. So in such an unfortunate event, an option will be available to the nominee to receive 100% of the accumulated corpus in lump sum. Now, yes, there is something called as partial withdrawal under NPS. The scheme provides for partial withdrawals under certain situations, under certain circumstances, specific circumstances. The scheme allows you to withdraw certain amount. So, and what are the scenarios? Higher education of children, marriage of children, construction of residential house or flat, and treatment of specified illnesses, critical illnesses. But there are conditions attached here is minimum 3 years of tenure in NPS has to be there. Then only are you eligible to withdraw. A maximum of 25% of contributions made by the subscriber into NPS can be withdrawn at a given point in time. Right? And you are allowed to withdraw only 3 times during the whole life cycle of the scheme. Only 3 times with a 5-year gap between each partial withdrawal. And recently there is one more benefit that is extended under the scheme. That is, withdrawal may be made based on self-declaration. That is, no documents required. Right? So just based on self-declaration, withdrawal is possible. No documents need to be submitted as they used to be required before. Sorry. Now let us look at the annuity service providers. Before that, we just have a look at what is an annuity. At least most of us are aware of this concept, but let's have a quick recap. A financial investment that pays out regular income is an annuity. It is a long-term contract from an insurance company where you invest your money in return for an income in the form of regular payments. So annuity for purposes of NPS is pension. So the word is replaceable by pension. If I may add, annuity is the only financial product, right? Annuity is the only financial product that protects you against the risk of longevity. The risk of longevity that we discussed in the earlier slides, in the very first slide, is taken care of by annuity. So just as we have term insurance or we have insurance products for the risk of a short life, right? So similarly, for the risk of a long life, annuity is the answer. So that is the reason an annuity can be issued only by an insurance company. Now, who are the annuity service providers? We have as many as 11, and again, we have the market leader, Life Insurance Corporation of India. We have HDFC, ICICI, SBI, and some other lesser known ones also like Star Union and kind of things. But most of the private players are well-known private players are there on board along with LIC. Now, an obvious question that comes to our mind is, can I estimate the retirement corpus, and can I estimate the amount of pension that I'll get? The answer is yes. There is an inbuilt pension calculator. The URL link I've given it. All of you can check in for yourselves as to that. We'll just have a look for a few quick cases. So this is the pension calculator on the website of NPS Trust, where I have to put in my date of birth. I've just put a date of birth for a 30-year-old. So in this example, I've assumed that a 30-year-old is onboarding the NPS scheme, and he contributes an amount of 5,000 rupees per month. Okay. So his total contribution will be for the next 30 years. And the return that he expects from the NPS scheme is around 10%, which has historically been achieved by NPS also. And of course, he would exercise the option of purchasing 40% of annuity, and balance 60 is to be withdrawn. And he expects a rate, he assumes an annuity rate of 6%. Annuity rate is nothing but the interest that you get on the purchase price of annuity. So if all the conditions and all these parameters hold true, why I've taken this 5,000 rupees per month is because that I see a lot of people invest into NPS scheme just to get the tax benefit of that 50,000 rupees. So approximately 5,000 rupees I've taken as the monthly contribution. If a person does this at the age of 30, then by the time he's 60 years, he would have invested a total amount of 18 lakh rupees. The investment amount that he would have done would be 18 lakh rupees. And the amount of corpus that he would generate at this particular age is 1 crore 13 lakhs 96,627, because we have assumed a 10% return on investment. So at this particular this retirement corpus of 1.13 crores, he will exercise 60% of that amount, which is 68 lakh 37,000. He would withdraw as lump sum amount, and the balance amount of 45 lakhs he would purchase an annuity out of that. And out of the amount that he invests of 45 lakhs, he expects a monthly pension of 22,793. So 22,793 per month will be the amount of pension that he draws at the age of 60, and 68.37 lakhs is the amount that he can withdraw at the age of 60. In the next example, I have assumed someone who is entering the scheme at the age of 40, right? And then he invests an amount of 20,000 per month. The tenure is 20 years because 60 is the age of retirement. Again, 10% return on investment and 6% annuity rate. In such a case, the amount of investment will be 48 lakhs, and the corpus that he will create is 1 crore 53 lakhs. So out of 1.53 crores, 91 lakhs will be withdrawn as a lump sum, and out of the remaining 61 lakhs, he will purchase an annuity, which will give him 30,000 rupees per month as pension. So this is just an estimate for someone who would like to know. Similarly, another example is suppose someone at the age of 50 enters this scheme. He invests rupees 50,000 per month. I've taken a much higher amount, and the other things remaining the same. The total investment by him will be around 60 lakhs, and it will create a corpus of 1.03 crores. And the monthly pension that he expects at the age of 60 will be 20,000. The amount that he can withdraw as lump sum is 61 lakhs 96,000. So in these three examples, one principle which comes out very clearly is that the 30-year-old, he invests a very small amount, but he gets a much higher corpus just because he's invested into the scheme for a long time, and that is true with any investment. If you stay in an investment for a long time, the effect of compounding will eventually take care of and give you a much higher corpus. Now, let us look at some of the pension plans under NPS. Right? Broadly, there are two pension philosophies in India. One is the pension with return of purchase price, which is the amount that you purchase, the amount with which you purchase the pension is returned back to the legal heir or the nominee of the person after on that person's death. So the purchase price is returned. That is why pension with return of purchase price. We also have another thing, which is pension without return of purchase price, where obviously the purchase price is not returned to the legal heirs, but the subscriber gets a higher amount of pension. So these are the two broad philosophies. Let us see pension with return of purchase price. So now there are different variations into this. The first is that annuity for life with return of purchase price. Here, annuity or monthly pension is paid during the lifetime of the annuitant, and on death, the purchase price is returned to the nominee. It's a plain vanilla annuity. Annuity for life with the provision for 100% of the annuity to the spouse of the annuitant, on death of the annuitant with return of purchase price on death of the last survivor. So here what happens is the monthly pension are paid to the lifetime of annuitant, and on the death of the annuitant, monthly pension is paid during the lifespan of the spouse of the annuitant. So the spouse also gets the pension, and on the death of the spouse, the purchase price is returned to the nominee. So this is a variation from the first system. Now, pension without return of purchase price. So here we have a few more variants. We have annuity for life. Annuity or monthly pension are paid during the lifetime of annuitant, and on death, the payment of annuity ceases. Annuity is guaranteed for 5, 10, 15, or 20 years. So there is a guaranteed annuity for different time periods depending on the your preferences. And on the death of the annuitant, the annuity ceases. So we also have another variation where the annuity increases at a certain rate, say 3%. And fourth and fifth are basically where the annuity is paid to the annuitant and also to the spouse of the annuitant. So 50% of the pension then accrues to the spouse in serial number 4. And in serial number 5, there is a variation where the 100% of the pension is paid to the spouse. So these are the different variations, and depending on one's requirement, one may select either of these policies. Now, so basically, not all annuity service providers will give you the same amount of pension. Obviously, just as different life insurance companies will not charge you the same amount of premium for a term insurance. So likewise, different. So depending on their actuarial assumptions, depending on their business models, different annuity service providers will have different amounts of annuities. So on this particular URL, you can yourself go and check for the different service providers and different. So Bajaj. What I've taken is I've taken one of the purchase price from the earlier examples that we saw, 61,25,576. So as on today, if this particular 61 lakhs is invested with an annuity service provider, then these different annuity service providers will give you these amounts of pensions. So Bajaj will give you 29,968 with return of purchase price. Similarly, Kotak will give you 28,177. And without return of purchase price, obviously the amount of pension is higher. So Kotak is then offering you 37,000 without return of purchase price. So Bajaj is offering 38,205. So this kind of an analysis will help you at the time of selecting the annuity service provider, and on a comparative basis, then the subscriber can then decide as to which annuity service provider is appropriate for him. Now let us look at the tax benefits under NPS. So we first will speak on the investment side of the contribution side of the NPS, the tax benefits that are associated with the contribution. So suppose if you are an employee, then 10% of basic plus DA is allowed as deduction under Section 80C CD1 of the Income Tax Act. So suppose you are a self-employed person, then 20% of gross income can be is the amount that is allowed as a deduction under 80C CD1. So this 80C CD1 is similar to Section 80C. You can equate this particular section with Section 80C, which is more popular, popularly known as 80C, and this is part of the 80C limit. You can see. So tax benefit can be claimed within the overall ceiling of 1.5 lakhs. So suppose you have other options. Suppose someone is investing 1 lakh or getting a benefit of 1 lakh as a life insurance premium under Section 80C. Then his deduction will be restricted to 50,000, the remaining 50,000 under this section. So this section is complementary to 80C. It is not over and above. It is part of the 80C section. We also have a dedicated section, a section which is exclusively meant for NPS, 80C CD1B, where a person can contribute up to rupees 50,000 and get a benefit and a deduction from his taxable income. Now this 50,000 deduction is over and above the earlier one which we talked about. So potentially a person can get a deduction of 1,50,000 plus 50,000. So total potential deduction of 2 lakh rupees can be claimed if you invest that amount in NPS. Now, for the corporate subscribers, so where the employer, the employer also has this scheme implemented in that organization. The employer's contribution to the scheme, to the extent of 10% of salary, is allowed as deduction. This is something, an additional deduction over and above the earlier two sections that we have discussed. Employer's contribution more than 7.5 lakhs is taxable. Now, this is something which is introduced very recently in the Income Tax Act, in the Finance Act, where the contribution over rupees 7.5 lakh is considered taxable. So there are two limits when it comes to employer's contribution. One is 10% of salary, and the other is 7.5 lakh. Now, this 7.5 lakh is also, of course, in conjunction with the employer's contribution to PF and superannuation taken together. Okay, so NPS is meant to be an exempt scheme. So we have already talked about the deductions, the exemptions that are available at the time of investment in the earlier slide. We now talk about the benefits that are there at the time of accumulation. Accumulation is where the corpus is getting created. The retirement corpus is building up because of the investment that is made and the returns that are generated. So the annual accretion to the subscriber's NPS account is exempt from tax, completely exempt from tax. So the NAV that is increasing year on year, right? The unrealized gain that you are gaining on the pension account is completely tax free. There is no tax on that. The only exception is that the 7.5 lakh limit that we discussed earlier, right? The income that is associated with that 7.5 lakh is taxable. So it is slightly becoming a bit complicated, but nevertheless, the income which is associated in excess of 7.5 lakh is taxable. Again, no capital gains tax is leviable on investment allocation. So as we discussed, suppose one is rejigging the portfolio, so from an active to auto choice, or increasing his equity allocation, reducing his bond allocation, or vice versa. So whatever gains are being made during on the churning or rejigging of the portfolio, no capital gain tax is levied on that. So that is again at the time of exit, right? The lump sum withdrawal of 60% of corpus is completely exempt under Section 10, Clause 12 of the Income Tax Act. Similarly, the purchase price that is pertaining to the annuity is also completely tax-free, of course. But the pension that you derive from that purchase price, the monthly pension that you get, the regular pension that you get, is taxable. That is something you have to note. So by and large, NPS is still an exempt scheme. By and large, only for a few, for a very minor section of the subscribers or the investors who are very high value investors, who invest more than 7.5 lakh rupees per year. For them, it is partly taxable, partly taxable. But for the large majority of the investors, the scheme is still exempt. Now, let's have a look at a few data points so that we can better appreciate the scheme. Number of subscribers under NPS as of April 2021 are 1.45 crores. So India is a largely unpenetrated market when it comes to pension funds. Only 14% of our GDP is invested into pension funds, whereas some of the developed countries have this particular percentage in the high 90s and even 100% also. So India is a very under invested market when it comes to pension funds. Now, assets under management as of April 2021 are, as we've seen, 5.89 lakh crores. And the average return on investments that are generated, I've taken a simple average. We might take a moving average, but the simple average for equities is 11.83%, government bonds 9.69%, 10.2% for corporate bonds, and 7.4% for alternate investments. This is the CAGR. This is the CAGR value. Now, another very important feature, which is slightly not known to many, is that the cost structure is possibly the lowest. This is the most cost-effective scheme investment avenue as on today's date. So out of every 100 rupees that you invest, only 9 paise is incurred as cost. So when I say cost, is basically the management fee, the fund management fee that is paid, and the other ancillary costs that are associated with the trust, the scheme management. If we compare this particular figure with some of the expense ratios of mutual funds, right? Now, expense ratios of mutual funds may range up to 2% also at times. In some of the branded mutual funds, you'll find 2% as the, so you'll have to pay 2 rupees for every 100 rupees invested. Whereas in NPS, you are only paying 9 paise for every 100 rupees invested. So that makes this the most cost-effective scheme in the country at the moment. Okay, let's talk about Tier 2 account, which is an optional account, which we discussed now. Now, Tier 2 account can be looked as by the investor as a mutual fund. Now, NPS seeks to be a unified scheme which not only helps to build a retirement corpus, but it also assists in planning for short-term and medium-term financial goals of the subscriber. So now Tier 1 account, which is your pension account, has a lock-in period of 60 years. You cannot withdraw before that. Tier 2 account is a free-flowing account. There are no restrictions on such. And that is the reason this account can be used for short-term financial goals as well as medium-term financial goals. So NPS is trying to be a unified scheme in that way. It wants to offer all kinds of investment benefits. Tier 2 account is an optional account which could be opened anytime by a subscriber who has an active pension account. So this is one of the conditions, that only if you have a pension account on the Tier 1 account can you opt for the Tier 2 account, not otherwise. Broad features of this are there are no restrictions on contribution to this account. So there is no minimum annual contribution that is required. Even if you do not contribute to this particular account, it's pretty much fine. There is no lock-in period. Any amount can be withdrawn any number of times. Now, selection of fund managers and schemes is similar to that of Tier 1 account. So just as we have the 7 options for fund managers, we could decide any one of them. Similarly, the auto choice and on active choice options are also available. So that is similar to Tier 1 account. Charges for fund management, etc., are similar to that of Tier 1 account. So that is also one of the important reasons why a lot of people are now opening Tier 2 accounts, just because of the low cost structure. The expense ratio is so less that allows them to generate a higher return actually. No tax benefits to the private sector employees or self-employed individuals. There are certain tax benefits for government employees. We are not discussing those. But for the self-employed and private sector employees, there are no tax benefits associated. Of course, because there is no lock-in and there are no restrictions, this is an account which one can operate very freely. Transfer of funds from Tier 2 to Tier 1 account is permitted. Such transfers qualify for tax benefits associated with Tier 1. So a transfer from Tier 2 to Tier 1 is possible, of course. The reverse is not possible, of course. And you will get the same tax benefits which we talked about previously. Now, in the couple of next segments, what I've done is I've compared NPS with 2 schemes, which are popularly considered to be retirement schemes. So PPF is one of the schemes which is popularly meant for retirement. So just have a quick look at that. What are the similarities between these two? Both are retirement saving schemes. Both are voluntary schemes. They come with certain tax benefits. They have a long-term lock-in period. So if you were to compare on certain parameters, the eligibility for entry in NPS is an Indian citizenship with NRI, aged between 18 to 70 years. That requires a correction here also. So 18 to 70 years aged person can be part of the NPS. Whereas in case of a PPF account, any Indian citizen can be part of the PPF, and NRI is not allowed. That is an exception. Investment, the minimum investment under NPS is 1,000 rupees per annum, whereas it is 500 rupees per annum in PPF. There is an upper limit of 1.5 lakhs rupees under PPF. So you cannot invest more than 1.5 lakh rupees per annum. Under NPS, there is no upper limit. You can invest as much as you want. Return on investment. Now, the return on investment under the national pension system is market linked, because an investor may have exposure to equities. Even if he doesn't have exposure to equities, he would have invested in government securities. So the returns are market linked. Whereas under PPF, interest is guaranteed. It is based upon 10-year government bond yield. Right? When we talk about lock-in period, until 60 years of age, the funds in NPS are completely locked in. The scheme can be extended up to 70 years, which we've seen earlier. PPF has a tenure of 15 years from account opening. And the scheme can be extended for a block of 5 years each thereafter. So that is Now, when it comes to control over how money is invested, of course, under NPS, we have choice. We have choice of the asset classes, equity, government bonds, or alternative investments. We have choice of the fund manager also. Who is the person who is managing our funds? Under PPF, we do not have such a choice. Exit or withdrawals, yes, lump sum withdrawal capped at 60% of retirement corpus, and the balance is to be used to buy pension. Under PPF, entire balance in PPF can be withdrawn as lump sum. Now two important differentiators which we can say are one of them is liability in case of debt. So in case of insolvency of a particular person, of an individual, NPS account can be attached. There is no immunity for NPS account. The account can be attached by the court or the adjudicating authority. Under PPF, the PPF account cannot be attached. So this is one important differentiator and one of the reasons why PPF is so popular. When it comes to government guarantee, of course, the amount that is lying in your NPS is not guaranteed, whereas the amount is fully guaranteed. The amount that is lying in your PPF account is completely fully guaranteed by the central government. So these are the differences. If we were to look at the focus only on the returns aspect or the corpus generation, then what I made a comparison where the amount invested every year is 1.5 lakh rupees. Under NPS, I have assumed two further scenarios: 10% return on investment and 8%. Whereas PPF is giving me a return as on today of 7.1%. And suppose I assume an investment time period of 35 years for all the schemes. And of course, because PPF can be extended for a block of 5 years. So 35 years investment is possible in PPF also. The amount that is contributed over 35 years, if I assume these things, is 52.5 lakh. And the corpus that is generated is, under PPF, you have 2.12 crores. Under NPS, we have 4.6 crores if I get a return of 10%, and 2.58 crores if I get a return of 8%. So I've taken an 8% return on a conservative basis because some investor would like to avoid the equity route completely. It really depends actually. So that sensitivity analysis I wanted to just show you. So I mean the difference is basically because of the compounding. There's no other reason. So the higher the return on investment, the higher the corpus. That is. Now, another scheme that is popularly used for retirement purposes is superannuation. We'll just quickly have a look at the differentiators on different parameters. Now, one is the applicability of the scheme. One thing is both schemes are voluntary schemes, so there is no requirement under any statute that you have to invest either into NPS or superannuation. Minimum contribution in the NPS is 1,000 rupees, and under superannuation it is usually determined by the employer as per the company's policy. Returns are market linked under NPS, whereas under superannuation it depends on the scheme performance. Now, because the investment is done by an insurance company, the returns are dependent on how the investments are performing. But generally, insurance companies do give out a minimum flow rate of interest, say 0.5% or 0.8%. But generally, going by our experience, because we handle many superannuation trusts, 7.1%, maximum 7.5% is the return that is earned by superannuation schemes as on today. When it comes to tax-free commutation amount, that is the amount that I can withdraw without incurring any tax consequences or tax liability, 60% of the corpus can be withdrawn under NPS. 33% maximum is under superannuation. So under NPS, you can withdraw a higher amount of corpus as compared to superannuation. Tax-free employers' contribution. Now this criteria is common to both. Employers' contribution to PF, NPS, and superannuation fund in excess of rupees 7.5 lakh is taxable as per Quizit. I think we have seen that earlier this year. Do we have customized investment options? Yes. Under NPS, of course, asset allocation can be controlled by the member. Under superannuation, no. It is the insurance company that determines where to invest that money, and it decides the asset allocation. Another important differentiator is the GST on annuity purchase. So under NPS, GST is specifically exempt, and under superannuation, GST is leviable at 1.8%. So what it means is, suppose my retirement corpus is 2 crores under both these schemes, for example. So at the time of purchase of annuity, under NPS scheme, I will not be incurring any GST. Whereas under superannuation scheme, I will have to pay an amount of 3.6 lakh rupees, 1.8, which is 1.8% on that retirement corpus, which I used to buy an annuity. So this is an important differentiator because it may have a significant, the person invested in NPS will have a significant saving on this front. Another criteria is transfer to other schemes. So as of now, from NPS, a transfer to any other scheme is not possible. Whereas under superannuation, the corpus can be transferred to NPS. There is a one-time tax exemption under Section 10 Clause 13. So one-time transfer from superannuation to NPS is allowed under the Income Tax Act without any consequences. And a lot of companies we are, practically we are seeing that a lot of employers who have superannuation schemes are now migrating to NPS because the scheme is offering good features, and of course because there are many other advantages of that scheme. So that is the comparison. So with that, I end my brief presentation. So thank you so much for a patient listening. I'll be happy to interact with you and take questions if possible. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Vikrant. That was so insightful. I have a couple of questions from myself, and then we'll take the questions from the audience. Sure. Can we move back to the slide where you showed the returns of different pension funds, equity, government bonds, and corporate bonds?
Okay.
Yeah. So here, I wanted to check whether these equity returns are comparable to those of mutual fund schemes. मतलब large cap, अगर हम इसको large cap schemes से या फिर Nifty index से compare करें, तो where do they stand?
Yeah, so if we compare this with large cap, flexi cap, or Nifty, then clearly the Nifty large caps are winners because they are equity oriented funds. And see, equity as an asset class will always outperform any other this thing. So that point, so Nifty may give you 15% returns also. So absolutely there is they are not directly one-to-one comparable because you have a debt element into this. You cannot invest.
No, I understand that. Yes. I'm just talking about Scheme E, of Tier 1. So if we compare just equity returns, where do they stand against, let's say, a Nifty index fund that is passively managed?
Yeah. So Mandeep, do you have Nifty index fund returns for the last 5 years? Because I don't have offhand have that statistics.
Yeah. So I'm checking in my phone. The HDFC Index Nifty 50 growth is showing 14.2% CAGR for the last 5 years.
5 years. Okay. So when we see so returns for last 5 years are in column K, if you see. And HDFC Pension Management has delivered 15.42% returns for last 5 years.
Okay.
So yeah, so almost.
So we have 14.2 as the benchmark, and there are only 2 schemes that are beating the benchmark, right?
I see. Okay.
So this is
so at least going by the 5 years returns. Sorry. Yeah.
So I was trying to say that this is one of my main concerns with NPS. You mentioned that we have a pretty low expense ratio. We only have to spend 9 paisa per 100 rupees invested, which is a good thing. But at the same time, isn't expense ratio the fund management fee that goes to the pension funds for managing our money? So if let's say I am the fund manager, I have the option to earn 1 or maybe 1.5% expense ratio from my active mutual funds, and I have to compulsorily run a pension fund because the government has said so, but I can't charge a higher fund management fee. So won't I be incentivized to show my hard work in the funds that actually generate income for me and just put it on an autopilot in the NPS?
Yeah, that's very true. So the fund management, the fund management fees that these fund managers were getting from the NPS was very low. They were to start with, it was 0.01%, and very recently the PFRDA has allowed 0.09% with this thing. So that was one of the concerns. But the question is of scale. The amount of money that is coming in from into this scheme for the last 2-3 years. It is exponentially increasing actually, and at some point in time, these fund managers will have such a huge corpus they would actually justify such an expense ratio. So in the initial years, now the scheme is around 12 years old, so still in the early stages of the scheme. But as time progresses and as more and more money flows into this scheme, I think that 0.09% is definitely justifiable going forward. So I think they have had a long-term perspective when it comes to the fund management fees. Coming to your concern is, yes, as a fund manager, of course, you will be incentivized to look into do more research for your actively managed schemes, which are obviously earning more this thing for you. Definitely. So that concern is definitely there. And I think many of the articles which I read in newspapers about NPS, this concern is very highlighted by the fund managers. But as of now, these fund managers find it, for a long-term perspective, these fund managers find NPS as a good diversifier for their own businesses also, definitely.
Okay, so if I compare, so earlier we compared the performance with the Nifty index fund, right? Now, if we compare to a large cap fund, which is actively managed, the difference is huge. So the large cap Axis Blue Chip fund shows the CAGR of 17.7%, whereas whereas I don't think any scheme, any pension scheme for equity funds have generated that kind of return. So which makes us ask the question, which strategy do they follow to invest in equities? I mean, have they specifically announced that we will be using a passive strategy, or will use an active strategy? And how do they, what's the strategy of their investment?
So yes, so they follow an active strategy. So the PFRDA guidelines with respect to investment management for equities, they say that your investment has to be in companies which have a market cap of 5,000 crores at any given point in time. Minimum 5,000 crores.
Okay.
Yes. Minimum 5,000 crores market capitalization is the guideline. So you cannot invest in a company which has a market cap lesser than that. And when I made a sort of an analysis, there are about 1,400 companies as on today, which have a market cap of 5,000 crores and more. So that much, so that kind of option is available for them. So they are not short of options as such. But when you, as you rightly said, if Axis Blue Chip is giving 17.7, that is not comparable with any other. I think that is outperforming. So the way I look at NPS, and I'm not endorsing. So because I nowhere have endorsed this scheme, and I don't believe that investment scheme should be endorsed. You have to place the facts, figures, and features of the scheme, and then let the investor decide for himself. The way I look at NPS is that it is, it will complement many of your other investments. It is not something which is a substitute to other investments which you may think are good and necessary. Because the thing which I like with NPS is that it has a long lock-in period, so that discipline is inbuilt. So suppose what happens is last year, take an example. Last year itself, March 20, the markets fell to an unprecedented low. Right, never in the history have they fallen at such a rate. So you tell me how many investors? I mean, of course, there was fear and panic in the market, right? Obviously, there was a huge mistake. How many investors would have had the tenacity to stay invested? And of course, there are exceptions, and I've seen many.
Understood.
But a large section of the population, investor population, is subject to the fears and is still in the herd mentality. So an NPS product which has a lock-in period, then what happens is it's a blessing in disguise. You cannot take out money from it. So it's a blessing in disguise, and of course, when the markets bounce back, then you have returns. So there are two ways of looking at it. Lock-in. Someone may look at a lock-in period as a disadvantage. Someone may look at it as an advantage because it builds in discipline. I think that discipline is yet to come in the average investor. I'm not discounting anyone. But what I'm saying is, because we are still learning, we Indians are still learning about investments. Our markets are still not completely mature. I think a certain amount of discipline is inbuilt into these lock-in products. So that is one thing which sort of incentivizes me to consider NPS. And of course, you always have equity options or mutual fund options which will outperform. So equity as an asset class will always outperform debt. So that there is no going this thing.
Okay. Definitely. So one follow-up question: if we see that the returns of all the pension funds in equity are pretty close to each other, not that close. I see that LIC pension fund is generating 12.79, whereas
Yeah.
HDFC is generating 15.42. So that's a huge difference. And even a difference
Right.
of 1% over the period of 30-35 years will
True,
mean
true.
lakhs of rupees, right?
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
let's ignore that, but let's say that, okay, if none of these funds are able to beat an active large cap fund, that
Yeah.
means that their investment strategy is pretty conservative and pretty low risk
Mm.
as compared to those of mutual funds, which are giving huge returns but may have a high volatility. At
Or
least
may
can
have
we
a high
conclude that?
volatility. Definitely, definitely. So because they also know that this is a retirement product, so
Hmm, hmm,
that kind of conservatism is slightly
hmm,
inbuilt into the investment strategy also.
hmm,
I
hmm.
think that is
So
that.
so whoever is a conservative investor and finds mutual funds to be riskier according to their appetite, they can
Mhm.
just feel free to allocate more of their retirement corpus to NPS, knowing that the fund managers will not take any extra risk to generate extra returns. They will just keep it simple, and they
True,
will
true.
just be comfortable between 12 to 15.
Yeah, yeah. I think you got it right. Your analysis is spot on with that.
Hmm.
So it's like a bit of a conservative approach is required also because this is a retirement corpus, and
Hmm.
uh, so that
Okay.
it's not an apples to apples comparison with a
Hmm.
mutual fund, an active mutual fund strategy, and retirement corpus fund.
Right.
Actually.
Okay, so let me just check which all questions have we received from the
Sure,
viewers,
sure,
and then we'll
sure.
conclude. So Yadav Balaji has asked that how much percentage as a pension they will pay. I think Yadav, this has already been covered. Uh, your 40% of the corpus goes to an insurance company that will pay you annuity. So annuity is nothing but a percentage. So at your time of retirement, आपको किसी इंश्योरेंस कंपनी के पास जाना पड़ेगा, आपके पूरे एनपीएस कॉर्पस का एटलीस्ट 40% पैसा लेकर उनको वो पैसा आप देंगे, एंड वो आपको एक अग्रीमेंट पे आपको एक इंटरेस्ट रेट बताएंगे जो आपको पसंद नहीं आएगी तो आप किसी दूसरे पेंशन फंड दूसरे एन्युटी प्लान की तरफ जा सकते हैं. इट विल बी इन टुडेज सेंस क्लोज टू 6 to 7%, बट जब आप रिटायर होंगे तो इट मे बी लोअर, or I don't know. I have not seen the future. So that is how
Yeah.
your pension will be decided by the insurance company. One more question. Other than the AUM, are there any other criteria also to select the pension fund manager, something similar to mutual funds? And this is a very good question because we have seen clearly that HDFC generated the highest returns in equity, whereas
Yeah.
LIC's returns was not so good, and
That's okay.
other pension funds are just hovering between these limits.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
and 1% difference means a lot. So, how do
That's
we
correct.
actually decide which pension fund should we go with, and
Mhm.
considering just the equity returns, and we'll think about debt and all later.
Yeah. So to give a brief answer, now HDFC, as I know, and I don't have a preference for HDFC. I'm just giving you an example. HDFC, as a fund manager, has a value investing strategy with Mr. Prashant Jain heading the investment listing. What I've observed is most of the schemes, even the HDFC Balanced Advantage Fund or maybe other equity schemes, they also follow a value investing strategy. So they believe in buying low and first,
Selling
and
high.
sitting on cash at times
Hmm.
when the market is overvalued. So
Hmm.
it really depends. Just as you select a mutual fund, you look into who's managing that fund and what is the investment strategy, whether they're following a value strategy or a growth strategy or a combination of both. So similarly, these fund houses have a track record of many years. So similarly, that particular strategy percolates into these kind of funds also. So similarly, ICICI Prudential with Mr. Narain heading the portfolio, this thing. Then because he's also a value investor. So you
Okay.
can, so basis this kind of an analysis, you can come to a conclusion, and depending on your style of investment or on your preferences of investment, you can decide for this. LIC is basically an insurance company, and they are good at managing bonds. Because they are exceptional, because I think even in the government bonds, this thing they have outperformed all the other pension fund managers. So it really depends. So if you
Right.
are high on equity, then perhaps you will go with the well-established portfolio managers like HDFC or ICICI. If you are high on bonds, then perhaps you will prefer LIC or SBI, something like that. So that is one of the so that can be one of the criteria where you could decide. as to which pension fund manager. AUM is not necessarily, but yes, of course, with the AUM, you at least come to know as to how much is the amount of money that this particular fund is managing. And so AUM is only one of the criteria. The returns of investments and your portfolio exposure to equities or debts will then determine where you want to go about it.
Right. So the next question is from Pallab Sarkar. He is asking, how can we check the ROI in NPS? I believe if you have invested in NPS, आपका ROI तो आपको दिखता रहेगा. But the important question is, if someone, let's say you have prepared the slide, we want to know where did you get the data, so that someone who is watching in future 6 months or 1 year from now, and they have to decide on that date how to get that data, latest data.
So this particular file that you're seeing now, this is an unedited file. I have not done any editing on this. This I've just downloaded on the NPS from the NPS Trust website.
Okay.
So this I think every month they make it available, every month or every fortnight probably. No, I think every day. In fact, this, if you look at this NPS schemes as of 7th May. So on 7th May, I had downloaded this particular thing. So on a daily basis also, you probably would be able to download this file. And this is the file that I'm not compiled. This is just taken it. And also, these fund managers themselves have their own websites. So HDFC Pension will have its own website where they, where on a daily basis or they disclose the NAV of that particular scheme. So in that sense, it will be very easy for you to determine the percentages.
Also, do they, just like mutual funds, do they also send a monthly email disclosing where all, which all stocks they have in their portfolio?
Okay, so so that is not communicated generally by email. The portfolio, the final portfolio, is not communicated through email. You'll have to visit the websites of these pension funds. So if I am invested in HDFC, I'll visit HDFC Pension Fund, and they have to mandatorily disclose it. So PFRDA guidelines are such that they have to disclose the portfolio on their websites. So you'll easily find the portfolio on the websites of these pension funds. Also on the NPS Trust websites, you will find the link to those particular pension fund managers' website also.
Okay. One question, any other annual charges for NPS account other than the 0.09% cost structure?
Yeah, so 0.09%, so that is the pension fund management fee. Apart from that, at least I don't decipher there is any other charge apart from that.
Okay. One question, how to open an NPS account? Guys, I believe we have also made a video on how to open an NPS account. If you just visit to laborlawadvisor.in, you'll find the process. It's pretty simple. You can either go to any pension fund's website, open via HDFC, ICICI, whatever, or you can directly go to NPS website and open your NPS account. It's no big deal. It's just a simple form. If you have anything to add, Vikrant, that would be great.
Not really.
Okay. What is the procedure to withdraw partially, or say at the age of 60? How to withdraw, to whom we have to reach out, etc.
So if you are through the online mode, then when you log into your NPS account, there'll be an option for withdrawal, and then there will be you'll be given. You have to fill up that form stating that I want to withdraw 60% as lump sum and 40% as annuity, or you can determine any other percentage. So if you want, you can put everything into the pension also. So that online mode is available. If you're through the offline mode, then you have to visit the bank where you have opened the NPS account and fill up the same form, which is manual form, and then fill in the same details and your preferences, whether you want to withdraw 60% or whether you want to withdraw lesser amount. So that is all. So offline and online, these are the two modes. Online is preferred generally. I would encourage everyone who has an NPS account to go in the online way.
Okay. And the last question for today's session would be, in tier 1, the minimum transaction amount is 500 or 1000? I believe they got confused.
1000, I think. Yes, I'm pretty sure 1000. The minimum contribution per year to keep the account going is 1000 rupees.
Okay. And the minimum amount for one transaction is 500, I believe, right?
Yeah, minimum amount for one transaction is 500 rupees. Correct.
Okay. Thank you so much, Vikrant. The session was so insightful. It will be published on the YouTube channel for the members to see on a later date as well. So I believe we covered all the important questions. It was so nice to have you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for this opportunity. So all the best to you people.
You too. You too.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Guys, थैंक यू सो मच गाइस फॉर अटेंडिंग. अगले सैटरडे फिर से आएंगे. आपके कोई भी क्वेश्चंस हों इस सेशन के बाद भी तो कमेंट सेक्शन खुला है, वहां आप कमेंट्स लिखिए, उसका रिप्लाई आपको मिल जाएगा. एंड जो भी इंपॉर्टेंट लिंक्स हैं पेंशन से रिलेटेड, एनपीएस से रिलेटेड, वो आपको इसी वीडियो के डिस्क्रिप्शन में और पिन कमेंट में मिल जाएंगे. थोड़ी देर में ये वीडियो ख़त्म करके पब्लिश करके आपको 5-10 मिनट बाद वो चीज़ें मिल जाएंगी. मिलते हैं आपसे एक और सेशन में अगले सैटरडे को विद अ न्यू स्पीकर. आई होप दिस वाज यूजफुल. बाय बाय.